Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, sorry. Uh, yeah, the learning curve here, I guess. Sorry about that. Um, so you can hear me fine, Pam.
Most definitely, John. You're clear as day.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Then I'm just going to get right into it and try to pick up your schedule. I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
No, hey, no problem. This is a fluid schedule, so by all means.
Then I'll insert a few more technical challenges. What I can tell you is that we're all getting used to the world of Zoom. In fact, Retail Council of Canada hosts webinars 3 times a week that are massively attended. Hundreds of people are participating in them, and it's just that thirst for information as people are trying to figure out the clarity around federal supports, national scans, what other retailers are doing, so really appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit on this. If it works with you, I'll just sort of go through a few things that I think are most of interest to people.
Yeah, that works, John.
Yeah, great. I guess really when you look at it, a month ago, Alberta's retail sector was the largest employment group in the province, 17,000 thriving stores, 64% of them were small business, but about 50 billion in sales. And Retail Council members represent about 2/3 of that activity. And what a difference a month makes. And now we've got the vast majority, nearly 2/3 of our stores closed, and retail in the industry is working very closely with government and health agencies and really focused on safety and security of employees, consumers, and citizens. And it's almost, things are moving literally by hour across our country right now. And there's 3 different worlds, and the 3 worlds being fully closed, those that are closed but online and trying to figure it out, or we're starting to do okay-ish online, and then essential services. And even within essential services, there's folks like grocery that have a whole bunch of challenges in trying to keep up with business and ensure the safety and protocols are in place. But then there's a number that are essential, but their business is quite weak. Yeah, but you're right in your opening comments as far as the mass devastation on retail. And essential's easy to kind of bucket in that, those stores are hanging in somewhat, or they're doing well, as I said, like grocery and pharmacy. But it's areas of focus like cleaning protocols and social distancing and supply chain in the case of some of the issues in grocery. And frankly, increasingly in Alberta, differences of opinion, I guess, in municipal states of emergency versus provincial states of emergency, and what is allowed to occur, what's not allowed, what's the best safety protocols. And, we're all in it together. We're all trying to make whatever the best decisions are to keep the economy going, but most importantly, help stop the spread. But certainly there's, as we carry on, there's more and more differences of perspective, I guess, on interpreting health orders. And so, at the same time as you've got essential services going on, there's those that are deemed non-essential across the country and in this province, and we get it. And Retail Council and members, for the vast majority, support that short-term closures are important to ensuring the well-being of Albertans, and we hope that some of the things that we're working on collectively will help ensure a quicker rebound, as we go through. When you look at essential versus non-essential, even in Ontario, it came up with a list that was very Alberta mirrored a lot of what they were doing on the essential and non-essential list off of Ontario. But in response to the continued increase of incidences, the spread in Ontario, they've announced very significant reductions in retail that can operate. So now we're down to really grocery, convenience, fuel, and pharmacy, period. So not home improvement, and not a number of other businesses that are continuing to plug along in Alberta. And so Quebec's closed malls, and you're seeing sort of that, and we're not, and we're seeing, frankly, even as early as this morning, differences of opinion on whether furniture should or should not be opened within the province. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more restrictions on retail because it's in the best interest of health decisions that we certainly wouldn't argue. Should I just kind of carry on, or how do you? I've got lots I want to get into, but I don't want to take you off your flow either.
No, sure, John. I would say that continue sharing on, and we're watching. We've got a few of us watching the chat screen, so. If you want people to start posing questions, we can roll that out. We can wait until after you've kind of delivered some of the information. It's entirely up to you how you want to flow this.
Okay, well, maybe I'll talk for another 5-10 minutes, and hopefully then we'll get into questions if there is, or 5 more minutes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, great. So where we're been focused significantly is on areas of those businesses that are being dramatic, grocery aside, they've got their own challenges, but for the most part, everyone's dramatically down in business. And from early stage, we've been working on for those that are non-essential, or those that maybe are essential, but aren't seeing any significant business, on liquidity, and making sure that there's at least some oil going through the engine on online, on curbside sales, on pickup, the ability for a business to continue to operate. Plus, at a federal level, certainly been working with the Prime Minister's office and Bill Morneau's office, who's the Minister of Finance federally, on small business relief. And it's, as I think most on this Zoom will know, small business is the job engine of any economy. The large businesses obviously have some challenges as well, and they're valued members of ours. But it's the independent retailers who are the backbone of any community, and many have been forced to close their physical stores. Their financial burden will be placed on these entrepreneurs on top of very thin razor-thin margins that they operate at the best of times anyway. And we've been really focused in on reliefs that will help them ensure that they preserve cash, and things like the federal programs that have been announced that I expect we'll wade into a little bit longer later with under M&P, if not others. But there's certainly some work that's been done on a provincial level as well. But any reliefs, we continue. There's some good stuff that's already been put out there by the Alberta government around utilities and corporate tax and WCB. But it's a long haul. I think we thought 2-3 weeks ago that we'd be in it for a couple weeks. Schools were going to come back, life would go back to normal, and now we know this is months. And businesses, most of the small businesses in particular, but also the medium size, they don't have more than 4 to 8 weeks worth of lifeline, and it's important that these federal programs and the provincial supports are around deferrals. If you continue to just rack up that credit card that you have to pay off, at some point, it's going to be devastating to a lot of small businesses, and so that's a big concern of ours. In particular, we think rent relief is the big one that still needs a lot of focus. And if major Canadian landlords continue to take a hard line on rent relief for retail tenants, then they run the risk of essentially empty stores, tumbleweeds blowing through their malls in 3 months or 6 months. And there's a high level of frustration around major landlords who have not stepped up to help retail tenants in any kind of meaningful way survive this crisis. And what we believe anyway is that they have to more consistently help businesses get through this, weather this. We recognize that there's important, they've got financial pressures as well, but if there's if there is, and they really, and landlords are certainly in a strong, strictly legal position to press upon retailers to pay their rent. But I don't think there's any chance that they're going to implement widespread insolvency. And we think that what we've been certainly encouraging at a federal level is for the government to play a role in rent, but also to put pressure on landlords to, like Cadillac Fairview and Oxford and all of the large ones, to play a more significant role in helping tenants defer or subsidize their rent costs. It's, what we've seen is there's been some rent relief now, but we've only seen primarily deferrals, and we've also seen a number of, but what we see is, in the retail community, about a third that just have said, I'm not paying, we'll figure it out later. Roughly, loose. I've got specific stats on our website, but a percentage that have paid and just hope for the best. And then there's the ones that are just sort of talking to their landlords right now, and that's certainly what we've been encouraging, is to talk to them. The CERB, as I expect, will be touched on today. Just the first, those that are January, February, March babies can now begin applying today. And that's a good program in many ways, but what we really had been advocating for, and we were pleased to see, was the greater 75% subsidy program. The challenge with CERB for especially operating stores is retail depends on a lot of part-time employees to fill gaps, and increasingly, as you're seeing pressures on labor and retailers like grocery having to hire to replace people that are on leave, that are getting fatigued, that are caring for kids at home, whatever it may be. Maybe it's someone that's sick or has symptoms like COVID. Then all of a sudden, CERB, if you're a part-time employee and making anything, making just a part-time money, CERB is almost an appealing way to just stay at home, duck and cover, get paid, maybe be better off, and that really creates a gap in employment, recruitment, and that important part-time group for filling stores. But certainly we were happy about the temporary wage subsidy that was announced, and we think that that's a big sigh of relief for a lot of retailers who can see a little bit more light at the end of that tunnel. I guess last but not least maybe is that there's so many moving parts and so many different needs, and as we start to get more, I guess, operational in this world of new normal, we think there's a real gap in some businesses who are all of a sudden having to live in a world of online and phone sales and curbside delivery and curbside pickup or delivery. And we are coming up with some materials on that 101, the how-to of that in the next day or so, probably later today in theory, so I'll say tomorrow on that at the retailcouncil.org. But we're also seeing governments and gaps between municipal perspectives and provincial perspectives on direction to retail, who may be closed and may be wanting to serve their customers through curbside pickup, and perspective on how that should occur, whether X number of meters away from the store, or where does the transaction has to take place online prior to, or could they use a remote tap card, or what it may be. And so some nuances there, but ultimately we're focused on recovery. We've struck a retail recovery task force that's all focused about making sure that this is more of a V rebound than a flattened curve in reverse when we get through this. But certainly welcome any follow-up or questions at any time through my email, which is jgraham, Graham, @retailcouncil.org. or certainly lots of dedicated COVID information specifically for retailers at retailcouncil.org.
Great, thank you so much, John. I think that it's good to know that the Retail Council of Canada is really advocating for retailers on the federal level, and you bring up some good points about the landlord situation. So I do know that we are utilizing the Central Alberta Economic Partnership for the platform to distribute a lot of this information. So I know that Kimberly is going to be adding links, if she hasn't already done so, to her website. And following this session, we are going to be providing additional information for anybody who wants it directly. I'm happy to hear that there's going to be webinars or training for online sales. I do believe that a lot of the retailers are transitioning out into those options, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to provide on the CAPE website kind of a condensed schedule for what you're offering, because I do believe that that information is going to be crucial moving into these next steps and just getting the retailers through this current situation. And yeah, we really appreciate all of the information that you shared today. And I do know that we are doing a recording of this call, so we're going to be taking some of the key points, but most of the information from these sessions will be available on the CAPE website. So thank you again, John. Does anybody have any questions specific to the Retail Council of Canada for John?
Thanks very much.
Thank you again for your time. So I think what we'll do is we're going